Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. If you are listening to this podcast live, happy almost New Year. We are going to be releasing this on, I think it's the 30th of December. So when you listen to this, you're going to be able to listen to this and in real time evaluate your year. And if you're listening to this in the future, I think stopping, pausing, and evaluating quickly and efficiently at any time in the year is such an asset to you and your business because you can really figure out so much when you really sit back and reflect and you're able to think about, okay, what am I able to really quantify and make clear? Here are my results, and how can I change those results to be something that I want is such an empowering place to be in. And I want that for each and every one of you. So today I'm going to be talking about how to evaluate your year in a way that feels really good and is productive. So, we're going to talk about ways that I don't think you should evaluate, ways that I would recommend you evaluating, my three-step evaluation process, and a business audit to help you really just take a solid look at 2025 and move forward to 2026 or whatever year you are in as you listen to this podcast. So, first and foremost, ways that I would not recommend evaluating. The human brain, if we're thinking, and I'm a life coach first and a business coach second. So I understand about human psychology and the way the human brain is designed to work. And our human brains are hardwired for negativity. That means that if you start to think about it reflecting on anything, your brain is instantly going to go to negative. It's going because it is hardwired for negativity. If you think about, again, as human beings have evolved, the people who are very optimistic and very positive minded, if they heard a rustle in the bushes and thought, oh, it's probably just a cute little bunny instead of a bear waiting to attack them, they were wiped out by natural selection. So, all of us that are existing on the human plane on this lovely planet of ours are typically pretty negative. We had to think negatively in order to stay safe. However, now that that negative part of us isn't necessary for physical survival, our brains try and avoid and seek out negativity to really avoid negative emotions more than physical danger. It's negative and emotional danger. Now, thinking about that, if you were to reflect on a year and maybe the year didn't go exactly as planned, and even if the year did go exactly as planned, or even better, your brain's still going to find problems with it. So, the way that I have my clients go through and evaluate their year is they think about positives before negatives. Again, coming back to human psychology, it takes five positive thoughts to replace every negative thought. So, if we think about this, if your brain is thinking anything about 2025 that was less than stellar, you want to make sure that you're replacing it with positives. So, the way I would recommend you start any evaluation is to start with five wins. Now, when we're thinking about the year as a whole, I like to think about wins on a personal and professional front. This is what I did as a career coach as well. And I like to think about, okay, what are the things that I'm doing well as a part of my contribution, and what are the things that I'm creating that are a part of my life? Both are a part of a fulfilling future, and I want to take both of those into account. So, within my business, when I think about the wins that I had with my business, I completely in 2025 completely unexpectedly, as of January 27th, I remember the day to a T, I was told to burn down what I used to have for my business, six-figure systems, and make two offers that could really help me scale to 1 million. And so that's what I did this year is I completely burned everything that was working in my business down and I made two new offers. What is currently called, hint hint to 2026, there might be some changes coming, the Scaling Systems Mastermind and Marketing Systems, my low ticket program. So I, in this year, not only was I able to differentiate the curriculum for both of the programs and make a foundational program and an advanced mastermind, but I also was able to refilm everything. And I did 5 launches this year. And that's the most launches I have ever done in a year. And I kind of did a back end launch as well. So it was kind of like 6 launches, which is a lot of launching. For those of you who haven't launched yet, that was a lot. And I am so proud of that. Then I also learned how to do ads this year. In 2025, I learned what kind of marketing works on a huge scale that's even bigger as far as data and sample sizes go for a non organic market. And now I know how to set those up for 2026 moving forward. I also replaced 3 different team members. I had a media manager, a virtual assistant, and a communications director that I replaced with a singular VA this year. So I had a team of 4 previously, and now it's just me and Bridge, and she has some other VAs that work for her, but it's mainly the 2 of us that are growing this business together. I also, because I had to launch 6 times this year, created a really solid launch plan that I know exactly what to do for my social media posting. I know what to do for my emails. I know what to do for my webinars. And now it's just refining that as years go on. Last but not least, for the mastermind, not only did I create in a whole foundational beginner program, but I also created for the mastermind a lot of advanced teaching modules that I'd never ever given before. I taught my clients how to launch. I showed them how to set up group programming. I showed them how to do advanced marketing. I showed how to do advanced selling with webinars, all to the mastermind this year. So these are all new things that I was able to do with work. And even with all the craziness of burning down my business, my income changed a little bit. I made 371 last year, and this year I made 320 in sales, which I am pretty freaking proud of. The fact that I was able to burn down my business and I was still able to maintain makes me feel so proud. Now, the reason why I started by talking about negative versus positive evaluations initially is because initially, when I looked at that income quote unquote dip, even though I now have more clients than ever, I'm working with more people than I ever have in my entire life. My brain, as it's designed for negativity, was like, oh my gosh, we made 50 less than last year. This is so disappointing. And I wanted to allow myself to feel the disappointment. I don't want to do toxic positivity and just like be like, oh, it's great. I'm so delighted that and I had a goal for 500K this year. And I don't want to be like, I'm so happy that I didn't hit 500K. I think that for any human being, it's very reasonable and rational to be disappointed when you miss your goals. And so whenever I miss my goals, I still do those 5 wins. And then I process the feeling of disappointment and I sit with it for a second. I'm like, oh, you know what? That feeling of disappointment is a good sign because that's a sign that I really, really want to make 500K. I want to make $1 million in a year with this business. And I know that I can do that. And for me, taking that moment to feel disappointed and feel sad, even though for those of you that are listening to the podcast, you're like 320, that's fantastic. For me, I was like, man, that was off my goal. I missed my goal by 180K. And I also can process that emotion and feel sad for a moment because I know that the sad feeling is a sign of how much I want to grow this business, how much I want to reach more people. And I can thank that disappointment for showing me how much I care. If I didn't feel disappointed, it would be a sign that I don't care enough about this business. And I really do. So I'm going to go in. I felt the disappointment and I was like, I am sad, but I'm still proud. And I want you to know, I don't know many people there within my mastermind and my program. I know people who have had astronomical years. So many people are getting more leads than ever. They're signing more clients. I mean, you heard Emily a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, her first 20K month. Those are such exciting wins. And I also know a lot of my peers in other facets have not had fantastic years. So I want you to honor whatever 2025 was for you, whether it was a phenomenal, fantastic year, or whether you had a year like me where you learned a lot, had a bit of an income dip. You're either earning or learning. I find that both are invaluable. And I heard this that would you be willing to feel disappointed every single day and feel sad on your way to a million? How often would you be willing to feel the negative emotion? And I was like, I'd be willing to feel disappointed every single day in order to make $1 million and help hundreds of people. And that is what it takes. It requires you to feel negative emotion and push forward anyways. Yes, I am disappointed and I'm not stopping here. This is my sign that I'm like, oh, there were things that needed to change this year. I learned a lot and I made a lot of mistakes, which I then learned from, and I earned a lot. I mean, I was talking with my dad and he was like, "You still made an insane amount of money this year." And I was like, "I know, but it wasn't the 500 that I was going for." And so for you, if you're feeling disappointed, it's okay. And I want you to know that if you have big dreams to hit six figures with your business, multiple six figures, seven figures like I do, it's going to require you to build your emotional tolerance to feel negative emotion. And that's okay. The negative emotion is not there to hurt you. Like I said, it used to be there to protect you from physical danger. Now, this is not physical danger. This is emotional danger. And you can feel the emotion, feel the negative feeling, and choose to move forward anyway. But as you have the wins for your work, as you think about the wins that you've had for your business, I want you to reflect on them, feel negativity if you need to, and then I also want you to reflect on the other half of your entire life to think about really creating a fulfilling business overall. And for me, that means that I also need to look at not just the contribution as far as financially and within my career what I'm creating, but within my life too. And as you guys know, this year has been a year for life. I was talking with somebody and they said, everything you wanted in 5 years is happening in 5 months. And that is true. This has been the craziest year of my life and truly the best year of my life. Like I was talking with somebody and they were like, I want you, like, this has truly been the best year ever. And for all of you, your thoughts create your results, and the way that you review your year is going to be the way that you remember 2025 forever. And so this year, I got married. We put an offer in on our first home, which has the opportunity to potentially even be a forever home. We did IVF. We got pregnant. And I casually went on 14 trips. I went to Savannah for my friend Sammy's bachelorette. I went to Norfolk to see my one of my first clients get her first Broadway show or first Broadway tour. I went to Charlotte to see one of my other friends get married. I had a bachelorette in Mexico. I went to Morehead City to have an engagement party for my other best friend, who I'm also her maid of honor. I went to Japan with my incredible now husband, Rob, for his birthday. We went to Gloucester, Boston, and got to see my brother before he moved. I went to New Jersey to have another bridal shower with my amazing family up there. I got to go to Lake Gaston for a bachelorette with my college friends. I went to Asheville to celebrate my other friend who got married and her bachelorette. I went to Orlando for this incredible conference with Rob. I went to Atlantic Beach for my third bachelorette of the year, and we got a chance to have a house on the beach with my high school friends. I went to Kentucky to go see Rob's family. And to finish off the best year of my life, we are going to Bali. Bali for our honeymoon. It is going to be amazing. We're doing that through the end of the year, hence why I'm actually recording this podcast in real time on December 19th. But it has been such an incredible, incredible year. And when I think about that, I'm like, I also made a ton of money while doing all those things. Pretty dang good. Now, then, so that's the first piece of the reflection is thinking about the wins and allowing yourself to process the emotions that come up. And I want you to process the joy too of the year as well. Then I want you to think about what worked. For me, getting to a meeting is critical for me. If I am left to my own devices, I've learned about myself that it is great. It is, if I like have an opportunity to get distracted, my ADHD brain most likely will. So I've learned this year that if I need to get things done, setting meetings with my VA is actually a huge thing that I'm creating systems around for now into the future. So that is a huge thing I learned this year and what works. For me, thinking in simple systems also really works. So the next piece of the evaluation, we list the wins and then you say what worked, what could use improvement, and what do you want to do differently? And then we do the audit. So I'm getting into the evaluation piece of things. So again, what worked, showing up to meetings, having meetings instead of me having tasks in my to-do list is very helpful. Thinking in simple systems is very much a win for me. For ads, a lot of times there are just so many different ways that you can go about doing ads. And for me, I decided that I was going to go and take the kind of philosophy and understand the way that my ads coach was talking to me about it. And I was like, okay, so there are three different styles I need to do. If I talk about five different scenarios in three different styles, then that gives me at least 15 pieces of content that I can create from this. And then I was able to not only do 15, but like each style has 10, has three options. So like one scenario has three different problem aware, solution aware, and agitation that I could make a video for. And it completely opened up my mind to realize that I could create a ton of content for ads and test that stuff out. So thinking in systems like that is a huge thing for me. Hiring people to support me is also huge. You guys know I am the kind of person that's why in my programs I talk about how if you just show up, I will tell you what to do. Because for me, the people I hire to support me, I'm not a big module watcher in my own time. And if I can just have people in my corner to explain things, to show me how to do things, it is extremely helpful. I also think that this year I've decided to make the most of every moment. And I think that's been a huge thing that worked for me. I think that, like, especially with the honeymoon and us buying a house, I was thinking about we could have kind of done things differently and not gone on a honeymoon this year or done a smaller honeymoon. And I was like, you know what? This is our last trip that we're doing as just the two of us before we start our family. I want to do something really big and something wonderful. And I want to cherish that with Rob. And that I think is something that worked for me that I want to take with me for every other year. Going on three different bachelorettes. I will never forget all of my bachelorettes. They were completely unforgettable. My wedding, oh my God, best day of my life by far. It was best weekend of my life. I don't think I've ever been so happy in my whole life. If you guys like listen to that podcast where I just talk about how awesome the wedding was, it was incredible. And I also know what works for me is talking to people, building relationships. It's my favorite thing. And I also know for the next category, what needs improvement is I didn't talk to enough people. I was busy. This was a very life focused year. And within this year, I realized that I need to build relationships. I took a really big break from that this year. And with my person who was doing like filtering the DMs for me previously, that was a person I had hired last year. It didn't feel like me. And I kind of just stopped sending DMs. And I realized that's one of the reasons why my business took a big hit. Every time I talked to people, people signed up. But I didn't give myself a chance to talk to people as much. So that's a huge thing that I'm going to do in 2026 is I'm going to make time every single day to talk to people. I also, what needed improvement this year was staying organized. There were so many moving pieces. And a lot of times within this year, I would be like, okay, Bridge, I need you to handle this. This is like, it was just a lot of moving pieces all at once, changing the programs, learning how ads, figuring out how we really created a system for launching. And I wasn't as organized as I'd like to be. I didn't do weekly, monthly, and launch goals like I used to. I just kind of was like, oh, we're going to launch again. Okay, we got to go. Like, especially with six launches in a year, Trust me, instant forgiveness for anyone else that gets there. It happens. And I was not as organized as I know I can be. So, what am I going to do differently in 2026 is stay organized. I know my numbers. I know how to keep myself organized. And this just gives me an opportunity to start nice and fresh next year. Also, knowing my numbers, making sure that every single week when Bridge and I meet, we go through the data and we say, okay, here's what we're doing. Here is how we did last week. And here's what we want to change moving forward. So, what I'm going to do every single week that's going to be different is I'm going to go through my numbers for my leads, and I'm also going to go through my finances every single week with my VA Bridge and also with my amazing husband Rob. We're going to do our finances. We're going to get like I love the feeling of being organized and like just on it, like having things together. So that's what we are going to be doing this year. I also want to separate the programs even more. So, for you guys, just a heads up, there are going to be changes to both of the programs. It's mostly semantics with the names, but there's also going to be more of an emphasis on parenthood. We'll be talking about that as time goes on. And I'm going to relaunch both programs at the beginning of the year and after my maternity leave. So, when I looked at my business, I was like, okay, I've got four categories. So that was the eval. And then I did an evaluation of what worked currently for my marketing and what I want to change for 12 months from now. And I went through each of the categories: marketing, managing leads, sales, and planning for growth. And I realized that, okay, in marketing, and I thought about where I am now and where I want to be by the end of 2026. So for my marketing, I figure I'm learning that especially with ads that I need to niche a little bit more as a business coach. Systems also is not landing. It is I my brain thinks in systems, but most other people see it as organized efficiency. So I need to change my marketing in that way. And I want a niche, like I mentioned, to talk more to moms and to parents, talking about how you can run a business in part-time hours and change the name of the programs. So that's going to be coming next year as marketing. And when I look back in 2026 at my year, I'm going to change the name of my programs and change some of the content within the programs as well. I also realized within my marketing, a lot of times we were doing launches so quick back to back with so much other stuff going on that I really wasn't thinking about personalizing my marketing a little bit more. So that is also going to be something that we do, taking time to personalize things, talk through things. I also want to do more talking heads, which is like me sharing, like you guys here on the podcast. I literally 70% of people who sign up for the program are like, we love the podcast. So I want to bring more of the podcast energy to social media. I also want to do my podcast way further in advance so I can get my posts out sooner and personalize it. Hence why we're getting 3 weeks ahead right now. And also, I haven't taken enough time. We've been throwing money at ads, which is a great thing. But as just like for you guys at this stage of your business, pre six figures or at multiple six figures, if you bring in, let's say you bring in more people, you go viral, you bring in more people. If you don't know how to track and convert people, what's the point, right? So it's like I had 433 people sign up for a webinar, 469 people sign up for the last webinar for the last two launches. And because it was such a huge increase of people, like I went from having like 57 people to 469 people within a launch. Is when you think about how many more humans that is to come into my space, into my world, it was a lot. And we weren't organized enough to think through the leads, really take a look at all 469 people and figure out, okay, who are these people? Where are they coming from? What kind of businesses do they have? How do I get to know them in that span of things really quickly? So that is what we're going to be focusing on next year. I want to know all of you that are listening to the podcast. I want to know who you are. I want to know your business. I really want to get to know the people that are in my audience and convert and figure out ways that I can help you even more, whether that is in my low ticket or high ticket program, ways that we can do this work to help you grow. So, for managing leads and generating leads, I've done a good job of with the ads, but like I mentioned, I need to think about where these people are coming from. Everyone that's listening to the podcast now, where are you guys coming from and what kind of things you need? I also didn't do as much organic outreach. So I wasn't a guest on podcasts. I didn't do a lot of collaborations. I didn't do as many speaking engagements. And I want to do more of that in 2026. I want to be a guest on more podcasts. I want to plan some speaking engagements. And I actually invested in a speaking program earlier this year, and we're going to include that on the website in January. So it's like I'm already thinking, okay, this year, where do I want to be? I want to think about like doing at least a speaking or podcast engagement once a month, if not more. And I'm also going to have my VA learn how to do that on her own so that I can get more of those speaking engagements as well. The other thing for sales is I haven't really been selling the consults as much as the programs. So for the first four launches of the year, I was like, sign up for the program, sign up for the program, sign up for the program. And I wasn't even talking about doing consults with me. I realized that most people weren't booking consults because I wasn't talking about it. And so that's something I want to do this upcoming year is potentially even doing ads straight to consults and converting the consults that are coming in and making sure that even if it's a cold person that is completely new, doesn't know me at all from the internet, creating a way to warm them up quickly so that they convert quickly. Not converting enough people on my webinars. So it's like I've gotten like it's usually around three people now that book consults on the webinar itself, and then people will convert afterwards. But I really want to rework both my webinars, make them both really strong, and maybe even try some other kinds of webinars this upcoming year so that I can actually test and see like I know that when I work with people, they get incredible results. So if I know that, if people aren't signing up, then that's on me. I'm missing something in the explanation to get even deeper into what people are struggling with and striving for. And I'm going to do that next year. Last but not least, for planning, man, I have beautiful planning sheets that I give to my clients for their webinars, for their launches, for their every week finances. And I haven't been using them. I have been like, okay, we're just doing this. We're just posting, we're learning, but I have not been getting into the data. And don't worry, next week on the entire podcast, I'm going to talk about how much data I'm going to be getting, where I'm going to be doing it, how I'm going to use my time in a more efficient way. But this year, I'm going to use the Rainbow Tracker, the thing I teach my masterminders how to use every week. I'm going to show them and be an example of literally how I did it for the past 4 years before this year, how to track my numbers every week. That's why I'm going to do that with my VA every week, see how things are going, and making sure that I get organized. And also setting my goals with my VA every week, every month, every quarter. We're going to have very clear metrics that we're going towards. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about in next week's podcast. So that is it. The four categories of your business that you're going to be doing the audit on are marketing, managing and generating leads, sales, and planning. And you're going to think about where you are now and where you want to be. So that was the last piece of going through and evaluating 2025 to make sure that you have an even better 2026. And I'm going to give you a little reminder of the three parts of that. First and foremost, tracking your wins and processing emotion. Two, doing a solid evaluation. And two, doing an evaluation. Three, doing that audit. I hope that this was so helpful for you. And of course, I'm going to include a worksheet with this so that you can download it and do this in your own time. I wouldn't take more, like, try and do it fast. I know that, like, a lot of times we can spend a whole day evaluating. And I do not want you to spend a full day evaluating. Spend around 30 minutes at most doing this. It'll give you so much clarity for where you're going this upcoming year. And I cannot wait to hopefully be seeing some of you so soon. So again, go ahead in the show notes. Make sure you download the worksheet that goes along with this podcast. And I'll be seeing you next week to talk about how to set goals for 2026.